Okay, we're live. I'm going to ramble a little bit and make sure that you can hear me before we kick off today's session. You should be seeing the title screen for Watercolor Mastery, and then we're going to just replace that with my face in just a moment. Oops, there we go. We're going to talk about Watercolor Mastery today. I know I've been talking about this course all month, all week, I don't know, forever. And I'm excited to tell you about this course because it matters so much, because I've seen so many artists find freedom in watercolor mastery, in understanding the mastery mindset and how to become your own favorite artist. There's a little bit of information about the course here. We're going to drill down and answer many more questions in today's broadcast. First of all, the goal of Watercolor Mastery is principles to help you grow your skills and become your own favorite watercolor artist. We build on principles. This is not a step-by-step how to paint like Angela Fehr course. This is a course on teaching you how to paint like you, how to paint that deep inner stuff in your heart that you want to get out on paper. You'll recognize it when you see it, and it's so exciting. It's freedom. It's a course that's going to run for 8 weeks. It's a 6-week course, and we're doing it in 8 weeks because we're just that speedy. We're going to start March 27th and wrap up around May 19th. We are taking a 2-week intermission while I'm traveling to teach. And of course, that's all up in the air right now. As far as I know, we are still going to be traveling. And either way, that gives you a little bit of time to dig into some of the content and make sure you're moving along at a good pace with the rest of the class. These are interactive. This is an interactive course. We have pre-recorded lessons. That's the bulk of the content of the course. But we also build on that and supplement it with some live sessions, with a student discussion and interactive group. And I also provide critiques and coaching on an individual level within our group. And we do that through our live sessions and through the feed, the chat, and the interactive part of our Fearless Artist community. That student community is something that you get access to from the time you enroll right up until the middle of June. And so that gives you lots of time to engage with the class and with myself. That's where I spend a lot of my time in our Fearless Artist community. So that's a little bit about that. I'm going to just switch over to the camera here. Hi. Not having the best hair day, but it's just going to be, it just is what it is. And I see now that you can hear and see me, so that's great. You're introducing yourselves in the chat. You do need to be signed into Google in order to participate in this chat on live YouTube video. So if you're having trouble finding the chat or not able to comment, that's probably why. If this video acts weird on you for any reason, try hitting your reload button and just reloading the page, and that usually clears it right up. Okay, so we're going to talk about watercolor mastery. Yesterday I did an information session really breaking down what the course is all about, those 6 principles that I believe underpin a strong artistic vision, growth for the artist, and helping you develop a mastery mindset. When I started thinking about watercolor mastery, I realized that for myself, to master watercolor did not mean to get all the techniques and be really good at them all. What it really meant was I had become an independent artist. I'd become an artist who I knew who I was. I knew what I wanted from my art. I was able to recognize that. And so I had really turned my focus from looking to others to feed into me, and learning instead to teach myself and to find out who I was through my art. I really feel like my art has become a conversation with myself. And that's been a wonderful conversation to have. I think we often have a lot of fears that we don't want to really get alone with ourselves and find out what we have to say. And through art, I've been able to do that. So we're going to talk about that. And I want to stick to my notes because I know you have a lot of questions. If you missed yesterday's information session, there is a link to it in the description below the video, and you can watch that afterwards. Those 6 principles, even if you don't take Watercolor Mastery, they are things you can be thinking about and working to apply in your own creative journey. I'm just very privileged to be able to share it alongside of you through the course Watercolor Mastery. And I find that doing the course in community with other students, with your instructor, it's really transformational for growth. I have a bunch of papers here, our answer key to some of the questions I get asked. So we're going to be going over those. But before we do that, I really wanted to talk about you because you're here. You're interested in information about the course. But if you have not signed up already, well, first of all, I know you're here because your heart is saying something in you is drawn to this idea of a Watercolor Mastery course. And yet, if you haven't signed up yet, I think the main reason that's happening is because you're having trouble actually picturing yourself in the course. You're not envisioning it. And I know there's other obstacles, time, money, and so forth. That's always a struggle and something to deal with. But if it's a case where you're trying to picture yourself in the course and mentally you just can't place yourself there, we're going to talk about some of those questions and obstacles that might be causing that. But before we do that, I have something fun I wanted to do. I messaged Robin yesterday. We did our first information session. Robin's my assistant, and she's here in the chat. And she can answer your questions if you have questions as well. She kind of handles the technical end, and I'd like to get inside of your head. And so I messaged Robin yesterday after our live session, once we started to see those enrollments come in. And I said to her, you know what would be really fun is if we picked one name from all the enrollments from yesterday and gave them a $100 gift card to an art supply store. And Robin always agrees with me giving away my money. So she agreed and pulled a name. And so I have a name here, and you're gonna, it's not even backwards. Sometimes my camera flips things. Anne Gressok, you signed up for Watercolor Mastery yesterday, and your name was picked at random to win a $100 gift card to an art supply store. So yay for you. Send us an email, info@angelafehr.com. And we'll send you info on how to redeem that. If you're in the States, it'll be a gift card for Blick art materials. But if you're in the UK or somewhere else, we can go with the art supply store of your choice. Or Canada for that matter. And we're going to do that again today. So if you enroll in Watercolor Mastery today, we're going to pull a name at random from those enrollments as well, just because it's really fun to do, and you'll get to have a little shopping spree. One lucky enrollment from today. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the questions you might be asking about Watercolor Mastery. And the first question, the biggest question is, am I really ready for this course? And I covered a lot of that in yesterday's info session, but I wanted to go back there and spend a little time there, and I'm just going to pull up my notes if I can find them. I wanted to spend a little bit of time there because I think we do sometimes do something to ourselves that can really hold us back. If your heart is yearning for Watercolor Mastery and your head is saying no, you might want to be very careful that you're not encouraging a mindset that is making excuses or giving in to some of those deep-seated fears. Really, I think we self-sabotage ourselves often because we tend to think that making art, if we're not gifted, if we don't feel very creative, if we're not as good as somebody else, if we're not good enough to put it in an art show or whatever you're measuring on, we tend to think our art isn't worth anything. And I disagree with that so strongly. A few years ago, I was cleaning my house. I have 3 kids, and at the time I was homeschooling, so we were all home all the time. And when you are home in your house 24/7, you have to clean a lot more often. And as I was cleaning, I was vacuuming the floor, and I kept having to crouch down and pick up, stuff that wouldn't go in the vacuum. And I'm holding all this stuff because the garbage can's on the other side of the house, and I'm looking at it and I'm complaining, and I suddenly looked at the things in my hands, and I had little pieces of Scotch tape. I had toothpicks, I had paper clips, I had little scraps of paper, and every single thing I was holding came from creativity. It came from my children making crafts. And Today I'm in my studio right now, but in the house, my son has taken over the kitchen table. He's 13, and so it's not tiny little pieces of Scotch tape anymore. But he's making. He's got glue. He's got popsicle sticks. He's cutting up paper clips, and I think he's using my good scissors for that, which is a problem. But he's making more advanced crafts now than he was making 5 or 6 years ago. But there's still stuff all over the house. But it's stuff that comes from creativity, and that totally turned my complaints about cleaning on their head because creativity is a good thing. Creativity is something I want to foster and nurture in my children. Creativity not only is the ability to have ideas and to see them through, which I think is going to powerfully impact the rest of their lives, whatever career they choose, whatever path they choose in life. To have a creative mindset means thinking outside the box. It means having ideas and then knowing how to implement. In addition to that, creativity is a huge factor in giving us an ability to navigate our emotions. And I mean, we have to talk about that because look at our culture right now. Look at what's going on in the world. There's a lot of mindless reaction to fear, based in fear. There's a lot of emotions swirling around in the world, and people have to decide how we're going to respond. And if we do not have an ability to navigate our emotions, and rather than choosing a fear-based response, we need to think logically, and we need to make choices that are grounded more in realistic expectations and facts and good planning. Those are all really important things. They're things that help us pull together as a community, and they're things that help us deal with fear, to get through hard times. And so creativity is a huge factor in that, and that's why I'm such a believer in art and in recognizing the value of your creativity. It's huge. Something that I've seen in my children is creativity has also taught them how to deal with frustration. My son, the project he's working on right now, he's making stuff out of popsicle sticks, and it's amazing, really. I think I need to buy him some better tools, but he had a frustration level. The first time he tried to do that tutorial, it just didn't work out. And he was angry and he was throwing stuff and it was not good. He'd glue all these pieces and then it wouldn't work out and he'd just smash it. And he's had to learn. He persisted. He got through those emotions. He came back to the drawing board. He started again and he made it successfully. He has learned the value of seeing a project through to completion without giving up, getting past that frustration. The emotion was there. He dealt with it. He came back and completed his project. And he's learning that there are cycles and stages to those strong emotions. I really want to understand the role of fear and use it and learn how to use fear in a positive way rather than letting it dictate my behavior, cause me to flee, that fight or flight syndrome. I want to recognize that fear can actually give us the push we need to do something that's difficult. And, those are all really, really important things. And it's a huge conversation. It's one that really we don't have time for today, but I appreciate you taking the time to listen and think about that. Because as you're making art, whether you're in Watercolor Mastery or not, you're in that conversation with yourself. You're facing your emotions and needing to think about your feelings and what are you going to do about those feelings? Those feelings that say you made a mistake and your painting is now worthless. The feelings that say you're never going to be good enough for whatever that goal is that you've set for yourself. And how do we deal with that? Okay, so let's... And I see questions coming through, so I want to get back on track here. When it comes to Watercolor Mastery, let's talk about this course specifically, because I've just convinced you that creativity is a good thing, however you choose to use it. For my son, it's building things out of popsicle sticks. My daughter pulled out knitting again yesterday. My other daughter, well, they're all amazing. And my husband builds cars. He's building a 1968 Dodge Charger right now. He finished his 69 Super Bee last year. And, he cannot decide what color to paint this car. And it's been fun to talk about. And I love watercolor. Watercolor is my thing. And it brings me so much joy to be able to paint because of this beautiful medium that we have. So let's talk about watercolor mastery. When it comes to watercolor mastery, you're here watching, you haven't committed, and that's okay. But do think about why. Maybe you feel like it's safer just to observe right now, to think about it, in the abstract, but you keep telling yourself, I'm just not ready yet. Be careful of that, because I think we do often hold back longer than we should. I held back for a very long time in applying to join my local watercolor society. I probably should have tried to join or applied to join 5 or 10 years sooner than I actually did. And there was procrastination there. There was feeling like I needed to just get a little bit better. And then I waited so long that some of the members that I could have learned a lot from had moved on. They'd moved away, they'd retired, and I didn't have the resources that I would have had if I'd joined sooner. I didn't get to build those relationships, and I'm really sad that I missed out on that. We have a fear of failure. There was a part of me that really felt like I didn't have what it took to call myself an artist for many years. And I didn't want to put myself in a situation where that would be confirmed, and that happens. We think to ourselves, you really shouldn't be painting. You're not that good. And we don't want to do anything that confirms it. And so sometimes that holds us back from committing with our whole heart. If you haven't given it all you got, that if you do fail, well, I just wasn't trying hard enough, or I just wasn't all the way in. So sometimes we just don't dive in out of that fear. And then it is a fear of rejection. And then often during the course, I see, this is the other thing I don't want to see happen, is students who sign up for Watercolor Mastery, but they bring that fear with them, and that fear of rejection. And often we see that played out. Students will join the course or not join the course because, oh, well, I don't have time. I don't have the right materials. Your supply list is too long and I can't buy all that stuff. I've said again and again and again, please don't buy everything in the resource list. You need to have the base of building on what you already have. The colors and brushes you already use. That's your toolbox. We're going to use that to grow your skills in the course. We often see people who join the course, but they don't really give it everything they have. You're dabbling in the fun stuff, but you don't ever work with that focused intention. Or you take on a huge project, you take on a really challenging reference photo, so you dive in too deep. And both of those, if you don't take enough risk, then you're playing it safe. But if you take too much risk, then you have a reason why you failed, and you don't have to blame yourself for your lack of skills. So we have to recognize that fear can play out in all of those ways. I really choose to center my beliefs on a handful of truths that guide my painting and that help me get back away from that fear and put it in its place. Number one is that I can't choose how good I am at this. I've never been able to decide how quickly I learn watercolor, how quickly I become the artist I want to be. If I can't choose it, and if I can't speed it up, beyond putting as much time into it as I can, what can I do? I can choose the environment that I learn in. I can choose to make my painting time a positive time, a playful time. I can choose to really enjoy the process as I'm learning. If I'm going to be in this place of learning for a really long time, I want to make it as enjoyable as possible. And that's really been my number one goal for my own watercolor journey. The other thing I can't decide is I can't make other people care about or love my art. But I can choose to love my art, and I can choose to make art that I love and respond to. I love making art. I love painting in watercolor, and I want that to be reason enough to paint, to show up and paint. I'm here for watercolor, and I trust that it will be here for me too. What do I really have to lose by putting my whole heart on display? I think sometimes we fear getting alone with ourselves a little bit. I have to live with myself. At the end of the day, I'm the person I can never get away from. And so if I'm negative, if I'm critical, if I'm living with myself and that's the person I choose to be to myself, it's going to really strip my joy away from my art, from everything really. So the art that I make is a conversation that I have with myself. I want it to be a really good conversation. I want to be my own creative best friend. And that's been my goal in my watercolor journey. And that's my goal for you in Watercolor Mastery. This is a process. It doesn't happen overnight, and we can learn it. Okay, switching over to my slides so we can stay on track here. 6 keys to watercolor mastery. We covered that already. The ideal mastery student, and I talk about this in depth in our yesterday's information session. Again, the link is in the description below the video. I want a student who understands the basic watercolor techniques. If you don't know what wet and wet is, you're probably going to get a lot more out of my Learn Watercolor the Heart-Led Way course. You know, that's where we teach those basic techniques, negative painting. What's the difference between painting wet and wet on dry and dry brush? How do you control and judge water level in your paintings? And all of those early techniques, they are things that take time to develop. I don't expect you to be, you know, super accomplished at any of those techniques coming into watercolor mastery, but you do need to have an understanding of them and be working with the basic techniques in your paintings. The ideal mastery student is someone who's painting actively. You've been logging brush miles, and you know, you have a lot of questions in your head as you paint, and you think about the things you need to learn still. Those are coming out in questions, things that you wish somebody could tell you. Maybe you're dissatisfied with step-by-step paint like me tutorials. You really want self-expression in your work. You want to paint your own stuff in your own way. You want to be more independent in your creative practice. You don't want to be a procrastinator who finds every other reason to paint because you're afraid you're going to ruin your painting. And I want to see students who are able to invest their time over the next few weeks. About 3 hours a week should be really enough for you to keep up with the course content. Although if you can invest more time than that, that's always good. My goal when my children were little was that I would try to paint 15 minutes, just 15 minutes. And if I could get those 15 minutes, I could feel really good about you know, my amount of my painting that week, or I could feel satisfied. And it wasn't 15 minutes a day, and it wasn't even sometimes 15 minutes a week. Although for this course, I think trying to get those 3 hours a week would be really helpful. And if you can do it in small chunks, that usually works better than trying to set aside one big block of time. The ideal mastery student is also able to keep an open mind and adapt principles in the course to suit your own creative practice. A lot of times students come into the course and think, I don't know what Angela wants from me. And it's really, this is where I teach you how to teach yourself. So it's, what do you need? And that's what we're trying to figure out. What do I need for my creative practice, and how do I bring that in? And we do that together. Watercolor mastery, again, we talked about this yesterday. Watercolor mastery is not flawless paintings. It's not replicating your mentor's style. It's not reaching a level plateau of skill and style. There's always more to learn. It's not knowing everything there is to know about watercolor, because the people that are the most boring to talk to are the ones who have all the answers. We actually paint, the more we paint, the more questions we have. And it's not certainty regarding your path as an artist. I love that my watercolor journey has changed and transformed over the years. I would have never expected that my art would look the way it does today. Here's a testimonial from Helen. I'm just going to take a drink of water and then I'll read it to you. Helen says, my lack of confidence in my own ability was my biggest obstacle. With Angela's generous sharing of her own toolbox of strategies, I was able to move past the fear of failure and pick up some valuable skills in color mixing and learning about the pause. Such a great idea that lets one evaluate and reevaluate by noticing what is going on in your painting and taking cues from what is on the paper. The feature I liked best about the course was that everyone was celebrated at their own pace and style. The safety of sharing your work in this safe space was so encouraging and freeing to be your own favorite artist. I have to just comment on that just for a second, the pause. Have you ever noticed, and maybe this is only me, I know it's not just me, sometimes when we start a painting and it's going pretty well, we're so afraid that we're going to mess it up that we rush ahead so that we can see if it turns out or not, rather than slowing down, pausing and observing, there's almost this urgency because we're so afraid we're going to mess up. And that urgency is what kills our painting. It's crazy. I don't know, it's one of those weird backwards human nature things. It just always makes me laugh. So we really talk about ways to just pause, to slow down and watch the paint. I like to call it thinking slow and then painting fast. Plan in your head, see it in your mind, and then put your brush to paper. Again, we go over this list, what a watercolor master looks like. We understand a watercolor master, someone who's gone through this course and has the mastery mindset, is someone who is seeking to understand art and design principles and choosing how to apply them. You're not a slave to those principles, but it's really helpful to know what they are so you can choose how to use them. A watercolor master seeks to build technical skill in watercolor by curating his or her education, choosing the line of learning that you need at whatever place you are in your journey. There's a time when I knew I needed more information on color theory, and I sought out a course that would teach me that information, and I was totally ready for it because my yearning, my awareness of my shortcoming there was very strong, and I was very focused. A watercolor master rejects fear and paints with authenticity and emotion. A watercolor master has an understanding of the motivations that drive their art, has made peace with the ongoing learning process, knows that mistakes are tools for growth, not signs of failure. Our mistakes do not judge us. A watercolor master is motivated by the heart more than outside influences or expectations, and a watercolor master is his or her own favorite artist. You know, it does me so much good to read this list because these are things I have to remind myself of every day. Through the growth process, we go through ups and downs, and coming back to these and centering on those really is invaluable for just training your brain to have that peace with who you are and who you're meant to be as an artist. Mary Jo says about watercolor mastery, I like that each week there was more than one goal and I was free to try all, some, or none of the suggestions. We have learning suggestions for people who are at those earlier stages of growth and people who are more advanced, people who are painting representational subjects like landscapes and florals, and people who are focused on abstract painting. Mary Jo says, mostly I tried them all, even when initially thinking I wouldn't like it. Yupo paper, for example. I would never have tried it on my own, and I really enjoyed it. And we talk a lot about experimentation in the course. It's not a necessity for you to go out and buy Yupo paper, though. Mary Jo says, I would definitely recommend this course to anyone who feels they are struggling to find their own style in watercolor and or are feeling in a rut about their own work. Angela offers suggestions on ways to find your own best expression and suggests very helpful ways of breaking out of a rut. Thanks, Mary Jo. I have to comment that in the chat, we'll go back to that one. It's really long. In the chat, it's so neat to see my past Watercolor Mastery alumni just sharing your own excitement over what you learned in the course and how valuable the course was for you. You really are my best testimonial for the course. Okay, questions about the course content. Is this the right course for me? We've been talking about that. By now, you should have a really good feeling about whether or not you're ready for a mastery course. You are the one who has to decide this. I like to describe the course as one for the serious amateur, someone who's committed to painting in watercolor, has an understanding of watercolor techniques, and is feeling ready to move to the next level. You know there's a next level, you're just not sure how to get there. Being able to commit to at least 3 hours of painting a week during the 6-week series will help you get the most benefit out of the course. Second, do I need to buy the supplies in the supply list? No, you do not. And in fact, I recommend that you don't. I do stress using artist quality paper, 100% cotton paper, good stuff, having lots of that on hand so you can log lots of brush miles. Paper's purpose is to be used and filled with color. But using the paint and brushes that you're already comfortable with is your base. It's your foundation to build on through the course. And there are some lessons that include alternative materials that you might wish to source, but wait until you see the lesson before you decide that. Then you'll know, you'll have a feeling about whether or not that's the right thing for you to pursue or not. I do include that supply list in the course curriculum. It's a resource list. It gives you the names and things of those supplies, but you do not have to buy them. How good do I have to be at drawing? I was never a very good drawer myself. I actually started painting because I felt like I couldn't draw. And what I found out was that just the act of painting taught me how to draw, how to see like an artist, and how to use my brush to draw. So there's always a way. These ideas that I can't do this and I can't do that are limitations that hold us back. And whenever I hear somebody say I can't, that generally it wakes up the rebel in me. I'm always like, you can't, but why? Why can't you? Come on. And I'm probably that's what makes me a really annoying mother, actually. Because my kids get really tired of that. Okay, I only paint abstracts. What if, will the lessons be a good fit for me? This is a principle-based course. So while there are demonstrations that are floral subjects, landscapes, abstracts, really there are as many genres as art as there are artists. And so we've really focused on those artistic principles that can be applied to any subject. And I talk each week about how to apply the principle for that week to both abstract or representational subjects and assign homework for each. And you choose what you do and how you apply each principle. Course structure, I want to talk a little bit about the course. Maybe you're wondering if you have the technology, the access maybe to the live lessons, to the course content itself. So let's talk about that. Number one, can I get started right now? No, you can't. Those lessons roll out. The very first week of lessons rolls out March 27th. I really feel like a large part of the benefit of this course is that we're working together as a group through each lesson. Each lesson is set to be revealed for its corresponding week during the interactive run of the course. And once this run is finished, you can go back to and forth to any lesson you wish. And once you're enrolled and once all those lessons have rolled out, you get to keep them forever. They are your lessons and you can revisit them anytime. And in fact, we have a lot of Watercolor Mastery alumni who like to go through the course again. And we'll be sending you information on how to do that in the next couple of days. Can I buy the course now but take it later? Yes, absolutely. You will, however, get more out of the course if you're able to commit to the time frame and community aspect of the course. My feeling is that the community aspect of the course actually doubles the benefit of the lessons. It's really worth participating. The feedback you get from other students will really help you grow, and it reinforces that community feeling. Okay, well, about the live lessons. Each week we have a live recap. These, I believe, will be Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific or Mountain Time. And that's where I will answer questions that come up in the community. I'll share some of the work that was posted in the group. I try to do a demonstration painting as well. It is optional to attend this. I know I had to choose a time and date that worked for me. However, if you're working or if you're in a time zone that it's the middle of the night, it's totally optional for you to be there. All of those live lessons are recorded and you can watch them in your own time. The community site gives you the opportunity to ask me questions anytime. So it's not like that's the only time during the course that you'll have to ask me questions. In fact, it's better if you ask them in the community so that I can see them there rather than hoping that you're there online at the same time as me and we cover everything together. How much time does it take? The video lessons run between 60 and 90 minutes each week. I would encourage you again to plan to commit at least 3 hours a week to painting and implementing the lessons and techniques demonstrated in the lesson, and the live recaps usually last about an hour. How do I get feedback from you on my assignments? As a part of the course, once again, you have access to my private online community at fearlessartist.net. We will have an entire course group devoted to the Mastery course, which is where you can upload photos of your paintings for student support and feedback from me. And I check in several times throughout the week. I try to check in every day to offer comments, coaching, and critique. Registration, one more question, we should go back to that. What if I can't keep up? Truthfully, 6 weeks really isn't enough time to do justice to the amount of content in the course. Even for the most dedicated students, sometimes life gets in the way, and that is okay. You get lifetime enrollment in the course content. Work at your own pace. You might find that you get into week 2 when we start talking about value, and something in you says, you know what, I need to stay here for a long time and really absorb this. That is okay. We totally encourage that. You need to tailor the course to fit who you are and where you're at in your watercolor journey. And that's why we give you access, forever to this course. You can take 2 years to take it if you want to. Registration, how do I register? You can sign up at learn.angelafehr.com. Robin's got the link in the chat and it's in the description below the video. And we're going to send an email reminding you where to register. That's all. We make it very easy because we want you, if you're the right fit for this course, we want you to in the course. We do offer a payment plan. I know that in our economy, it can be a struggle to invest in a course like this. However, we don't discount this course because when you're fully invested, you know, that your commitment level just goes up that much higher as well. We really believe this course is value for the money. We do offer, however, an option to choose 2 payments instead of a single payment on our enrollment page, and we offer payments in US dollars or Canadian dollars. If you're outside of North America, they do a currency conversion for you when you check out. So it will show up on your credit card as whatever your exchange rate is for that day. Watercolor Mastery, how long do I have to buy? Watercolor Mastery is officially open for enrollment until March 20th. On March 20th, we kick off prep week, where we start thinking about getting ready for the course and getting our supplies together and talking about having a mental readiness as well. We also have an enrollment cap of 100 students. And so we want to keep that class size nice and intimate. And what our math says that 100 students, usually it's only a smaller percentage of that's actually active in the interactive part of the course. And so we end up with a really nice class size when we have that 100 students enrolled. Our lessons start on March 27th. And again, prep week starts March 20th before that first lesson drips out. How long do I have access to the lessons? I've already mentioned that. You get lifetime access to those lessons for as long as they exist on the internet. Our intention is that's going to be forever. Again, watch it at your own pace, and you watch those lessons as many times as you want. I do have a return policy of 14 days from the day the course starts, which is March 27th. You get up to 2 weeks after that date to get a feel for whether or not the course is for you. If that first set of lessons rolls out on March 27th and you just feel this feeling in the pit of your stomach that you just jumped into something you shouldn't be in, we understand. We don't want you to feel that way, and we offer that refund policy. Okay, so that is my main list. I think so. Yes, Kathy comments, I have been painting almost every day through Watercolor Mastery. I'm enjoying the fun warm-ups as well as working through the course. I have started to look at value more. The course has sparked so many ideas in me that I feel as though I will never have to ponder over what to paint ever again. Angela has such a gift for explaining things in an easy to understand way. She is so encouraging and positive in her comments and has a clear empathy with her students. Her love of watercolor is infectious. She is kind, generous, sincere, and authentic, and I feel so lucky to have been able to take this course. It is not easy to find courses in watercolor that go beyond the beginner stage. Once a strong foundation of technique has been gained, tuition tends to run out. The Watercolor Mastery has been so much fun that it really sparks the imagination. The focus on mindset is invaluable. Kathy, I'm feeling like my face is red. What a wonderful thing to say about the course. You know, I have empathy for my students because during the course, I'm just brought continually back to my own journey and thinking about that feeling of not really knowing where I was going, but just really hoping I could get there. You know, that was a hard place to be. It was lonely. And so to get to come alongside you and encourage you through this process wherever you're at, and say it's okay. We're in this together. I've been there and I know those feelings. That's really a privilege for me, and I'm really thankful for it. It's really I really feel like I've been doing what I was made to do. There is questions happening. If you have questions right now, please just leave them in the chat here, and I'm going to watch for them for the next few minutes, and then we'll and then I'll answer them as much as I can. Vicky says, I'm in the Fearless Artist community. Will I need to purchase the course? Yes, Watercolor Mastery is not included with your Fearless Artist membership. It is a separate thing. But once you are enrolled in Watercolor Mastery, when we do these interactive series, all you need to join in with that is a Fearless Artist membership. So if you're a past Watercolor Mastery student and you want to go through the course again with us, you can enroll in Fearless Artist for the 2 months that we're going through the course, and you'll have access. You can go through the interactive content with us. Just comments. Dorothy comments, she's up at 3 a.m. for this video. Yes, you're live. That is a challenge. We have a worldwide audience. And so for some of you, yeah, 3 a.m. is far too early to get up, Dorothy. I'm so sorry. When we do these live sessions, if the time does not work for you, it is just one way that you can interact with the Watercolor Mastery students. If you are, if we come from all different time zones, so you can watch the recording of the live session at a reasonable hour and then come into our Fearless Artist community where we can interact there by posting your work, by commenting on other students' work, by asking your questions there and in your own time. And that really has worked quite well. It really does foster a sense of community in an amazing way. I really feel like our Fearless Artist community is the internet done right. We are an example for the world of how you can share support and encouragement and really use the internet as a force for good and bring friendship right into your home. Elaine asked, is it best to wait until getting through the community course lessons or work through at the same time of mastery? Elaine, if you're a Fearless Artist member, I know you know that there is a ton of content in the community that's available to you at all times. There's 20 plus of my online courses there. There's the live sessions that we do on a regular basis. There's a lot of stuff going on. I really feel like Watercolor Mastery is a time when you want to step back from the other noise and really focus on your own watercolor journey. So I would plan to set the Fearless Artist community stuff aside, or just focus on the stuff that really builds on what you're learning in Watercolor Mastery. That I think should make sense. If you have other questions about that, I know Robin's worked out what Watercolor Mastery looks like for existing Fearless Artist members, and you can send us an email, info@angelafehr.com, and she can make sure you understand how that works. Canny asks, would Learn Watercolor the Heart-Led Way be a good spot for those of us that don't feel we are ready yet? Yes. Learn Watercolor the Heart-Led Way is the course that I designed for the beginning painter. So if you're brand new to watercolor and you're trying to figure out why watercolor does what it does, that's a really good place for you. Learn Watercolor the Heart-Led Way. I do have, however, in the Fearless Artist community could be another good place for you to spend some time, Canny, because if you have that feeling that jumping into Watercolor Mastery is that diving too deep that's going to overwhelm you, you might feel like much more comfortable purchasing a Fearless Artist membership. They are available monthly or annually. And there you have access to 20 plus online courses, as well as the interactivity of the community. Watercolor Mastery isn't included there, but you have a smorgasbord of courses to help guide wherever you're at in your watercolor journey. Need a drink here. I always know when it's time to wind down when my throat starts drying out. Anne asks regarding Mighty Networks. Yes, Anne, you signed up for Watercolor Mastery, so you should have received an invitation to join Mighty Networks. That is where the interactive part of our community happens. We call it the Fearless Artist Community. And that's once you've received that invitation, you can log in and start to get to know the Watercolor Mastery community there. Over the next couple of weeks, you can get a feel for it before the course even starts. Robin's added some links for those of you who maybe aren't ready to join Watercolor Mastery. Maybe you're interested in our Fearless Artist community. There's a link for that in the chat. And Robin's also added that link to enroll in Watercolor Mastery. Remember, we're drawing a $100 gift card for one lucky registrant today. At the end of the day, we'll do that. And I'll send an email letting you know who won that tomorrow. Pamela, hi everyone. I keep getting drawn back to Angela's teaching style, so I know if not this time, it will happen. Question, is there a sample lesson that I can see before taking the plunge? I don't have any of those lessons available publicly in Watercolor Mastery, but Pamela, we could maybe send you a link to a past live session. That would be something that might be helpful. Let me do a little bit of digging around and I'll see if I can help you out with that. Send an email to info@angelafehr.com and I might just send that out to everybody on my Mastery mailing list so we can dig into that. I want you to be sure that this is for you. Again, that's why we offer that flexible refund policy. We want to make sure that you feel really glad that you've signed up for Watercolor Mastery. That's the most important thing. Now, I had a ridiculously long testimonial I was going to read to you. Let me track it down and see if I can read it. The font was really small. This is from Gary. She says, I'm a relative newcomer to watercolor or art in general, and I struggle with getting bogged down in details and overpainting. My biggest fear was sharing my work. Through this course, I've learned to see the bigger picture and break things down into simple shapes. The support that I received through the course from Angela and the other students made me less fearful of sharing and was a great learning experience. I liked the structure of the course with Angela's lessons and learning how to begin looking at what I want to paint and how to break it down by shape and value. Angela's input was invaluable. My favorite part was the live feed each week where we could interact and ask questions and get feedback in real time. Angela is such a supportive and giving instructor, it makes it much easier to share, knowing that the input she gives instructionally is done in a positive and not critical way. She seems to be able to make each student feel supported and a valuable part of her class. She doesn't make you feel less because you may be at the beginning of your art journey and have skills that aren't as developed. She's very nurturing and encouraging each student to develop at whatever level they may be at the time. This is a great class if you want to learn how to grow and develop as an artist. It was less about learning to paint as Angela paints and learning more about learning how to discover your own inner artist and not be fearful of venturing out and trying things. This is really a course to help you craft your art journey. If you're going to be making art for a long time, let's find a way to make it a really good time. And we do that best when we are building on our strengths, when we're being positive, when we're finding ways to see where we're good and then grow in that. And I really love seeing that this approach works. I don't have to tear you down and criticize everything you do. Instead, we look for the strengths and we build on those and we keep building. And that's the kind of parent I want to be. That's the kind of friend I want to be. Why wouldn't I want to be that kind of artist too? Okay, I think we're winding down. I do have a couple questions regarding sample lessons. I do think that it would be really fun to share with you a little bit of what goes on in Watercolor Mastery. So I think what I will do is dig up one of those past live sessions and send you all a link to that. So if you're interested in kind of seeing what happens in one of our live sessions and how we talk about the lesson content from the previous week, that would be a really good place to do it. And I really like, this is something that's available as a preview to the course, is on the Watercolor Mastery course page. You can take a look at an introductory video that I created talking about color substitutions. It's really crucial color theory information that I really feel like everyone needs to know. So that's something you can take a look at right away. It's right there on the Watercolor Mastery course page. Just scroll down to where the course outline is shown and you'll see it'll have a little click start here and you can watch that video. Thank you for joining me today. I know we covered a lot of ground. We talked about a lot of stuff, but that doesn't mean you don't still have questions. If there's a question you have that I missed, send us an email, info@angelafehr.com. Happy to answer them. I'll be watching my email all day today and feeling really excited when I see those Watercolor Mastery enrollments come in. Those of you, when you invest in Watercolor Mastery, just that decision alone to commit can be really pivotal. That decision that says, hey, I'm going to invest in my art and I'm going to value it the way I should. It's huge. It's I don't know. It's like the boost I got when I bought my first pair of expensive maternity jeans. I'm like, I'm going to wear these pants for 2 months, but boy, I'm going to feel good while I do it. I'm worth wearing great jeans when I'm pregnant. And I don't know. I always think of that. So, we invest in ourselves and it lifts us up. It's a big step to that next level. just like a good pair of maternity jeans. Okay, we got to wrap this up before it gets crazy. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.